It's a special excitement to step from an aircraft on your first ever long-distance trip. Montreal-born Marianne, whose journey we're to follow, is at the start of a planned holiday in England, birthplace of her parents. Now their memories are to become realities for her. Their close friendship has its origin in Jill's visits to Canada with her father, when the two girls spent many hours planning and mapping a touring holiday in England. Now it's all coming true. First greetings over, luggage stowed, and the short trip to Jill's home near London begins. Tomorrow's D-Day for the open road. Oxford heads the list of their tour, but Jill had not bargained for the transatlantic camera craze. Marianne was forever stopping the car to add to her growing collection of colour slides to show the folks back home. At Marlow Bridge on the Thames, in blazing sunshine, Marianne starts camera clicking. The river and the weir look particularly lovely, so the girls decide to go down to the riverside lawns to sip a leisurely drink and watch the boats go by. They've lost time at Marlow, but the Anglia is a car renowned for its turn of speed on the open road, so Jill had little to worry about catching up with their schedule. Oxford now, Tom Tower of Christchurch, the Radcliffe camera in the distance. Every view gives new meaning to Oxford's dreaming spires. The Anglia moves ahead of the main traffic down the famous High in search of a parking spot. You can't very well park on the lawn of a college whose foundation dates from the 14th century. Out come the guidebooks, and a short walk round the colleges is agreed. The quadrangle of New College is typical of much of the Oxford architecture. Founded by William of Wykeham in 1379, it's among the oldest of the colleges. Well-kept gardens and lawns and long, cool stone corridors compose a tranquil beauty in high summer. After Oxford's intensive sightseeing, the girls find an old coaching inn at Chipping Norton for a night's rest. The businesslike Jill looks after calls for early breakfast, luggage, and all the other details. Marianne, still somewhat starry-eyed with the whole thing, has her mind on other things. Chipping Norton, Stowe on the Wold, Shipston on Stour. Here are names to intrigue the tens of thousands of transatlantic visitors who pass this way on the path of the pilgrimage to the Shakespeare country. Stratford-upon-Avon, and approaching lunchtime. It was certainly their lucky day, for they found a parking spot first time. Parking can be a problem in many tourist centres at the height of the season, but Jill can vouch for the ease of parking delightfully manoeuvrable Anglia. Stratford has its origins as a Roman village astride the Avon, but it is, of course, as the birthplace of Shakespeare that it's best known throughout the world. Much of the town is an absorbing mixture of Elizabethan, Jacobean, and Georgian architecture. But the Memorial Theatre, built in 1932, is in the controversial style of a later day. The fine lawns on the south bank of the Avon offer welcome relaxation to our two friends. One of Stratford's well-known figures is Waldo Lanchester, artist and puppeteer. As well as being a leading figure in the revival of continental puppet shows in this country, He runs a successful business in books and hand-colored prints of Shakespearean characters. Not all the houses in Stratford are half-timbered. Some of the best of modern design are appearing on the outskirts of the town, like this house built by a celebrated Hungarian textile designer. Much of Stratford's history is centred around one man, but many have contributed to the history of Warwick with its magnificent 600-years-old castle. It was a Greville, one of the Earls of Warwick, who did much to restore the castle, the beautiful lake and bridge, where Jill and Marianne leave the car and take to a boat. Within the shadow of the castle have walked many kings and queens of England, guests of the Earls of Warwick, with noble names like Beauchamp, Greville and Dudley. Another historic place in Warwick, situated by the West Gate, is the 16th century Leicester Hospital. Pure Elizabethan, the gables and crests are as they were when Robert Dudley made the old house into a religious foundation in 1571, a tradition of charity not yet extinct, for 12 old men still reside there, some of them acting as guides for visitors. Jill, keen and capable student of art, starts the first of several crayon sketches of the holiday. Marianne sticks to her camera. Leaving Warwick, the girls come upon the locks of the Grand Union Canal. Marianne is fascinated by this old and very quiet method of transport. The skill of the canal folk who live on the long narrow boats, the complicated business of the lock gates and the gay little boat cabins, all belonging to a past age. Many canals have fallen into disrepair, but it's significant that plans are now afoot to open up this enormous network of waterways for the carriage of bulk cargoes between the principal cities of Britain. A pause at Broadway, nestling in the heart of the Cotswolds. A night's sleep, then on the road again. Jill checks her mileage at a petrol stop and proves how economical an Anglia can be for getting around all the odd places on a motoring holiday. With a family of 4 or a group of friends, the expense is very moderate, to say nothing of the convenience of wandering where you will, a host of luggage safely stowed in a capacious boot. Goodbye to the Avon country, and now a welcome from Tewkesbury on the River Severn. Weaving through the traffic of this busy market town, the girls make a short stop to look at the magnificent Abbey Church. There has been much tragedy in the past of this ancient town, for it was here that some of the fiercest battles of the Wars of the Roses were fought. In the Abbey itself, the young Lancastrian Prince of Wales was murdered in 1471. Consecrated in the late 12th century, it's a magnificent example of early Norman architecture. A highlight is the great arch of the western end. Perpendicular windows now replace Norman predecessors. finest scenic drives in the country, the winding road through the length of the lovely Wye Valley, through 3 counties from Hereford into Gloucestershire and on to Chepstow in Monmouth to cross the ferry over the Severn. A full day's driving doesn't tire Jill. The all-round visibility of the Anglia gives a firm, comfortable driving position and plenty of scope to watch the whole of the road and enjoy the ride. The Chepstow ferry, and the weather turns wet for the only time during the whole tour. They feel grateful for the warmth and comfort of their Anglia as they head in the early evening towards Bristol. Clifton Suspension Bridge, architect-engineer Brunel's superb example of bridge building over the Avon Gorge. The tide is out and the gorge has a grand canyon look from the dizzy height of the bridge. Somerset, where the cider comes from, and the first call is Bath, a city with a history going back to the days of Roman occupation. In the centre lies the great abbey, beside the remains of the Roman temple and baths, considered to be the finest of their kind in Britain. For 350 years, under the name of Aquae Sulis, the Romans enjoyed a highly civilized health resort built around the springs of hot mineral waters that still rise into the baths and pump room. There followed a long gap in the city's history until the abbey and church buildings were built in 1499. It was not until the 18th century that Bath again became a fashionable resort for London gentry who came down to take the waters and eventually built whole streets of houses with full Regency splendor. Milsom Street is one of the many fine shopping centres in Bath. Marianne is hungry for some of the famous biscuits which take their name from the city. Jill looks for something gay to wear. Reminiscent of the Georgian terraces found in London, sets of houses on a hill lead up to the sweeping classical curve of Royal Crescent. These were the homes of many 18th and 19th century citizens who moved from London and established a gay and civilized way of life in the West Country. Notable Bath residents included Robert Clive and the Earl of Chatham, and among men of letters, Burke, Goldsmith, Sheridan, Scott and Wordsworth. Many roads sweep by in brilliant sunshine. The rolling English landscape unfolds with every mile as the girls head for Wells, next place for a night's stay. This charming little cathedral city, which derives its name from St. Andrew's Wells, lies at the foot of the Mendip Hills. Although one of the smallest cathedrals in Britain, it's thought by many to be one of the loveliest. A moat surrounds the Bishop's Palace behind the cathedral and forms a quiet backwater for the visitor. It's the great west facade that is such a focal point for student and tourist alike. The intricate details of sculpture cover nearly 400 different figures. Calls on a friend in the old Somerset town of Shepton Mallet, an opportunity for Marianne to display some of the postcards she has acquired to take home with her. Across country again, moving towards Glastonbury, evoking the Arthurian legends, for this is the supposed burial spot of Arthur and Guinevere. It was known at one time throughout Europe as Avalon, the sleepy Isle of the Blessed. All that remains of the St. Michael Chapel is the tower at the top, landmark for the traveller. Taunton, county town of Somerset, and in and out of the traffic, the Anglia heads for a main Ford dealership for a 5,000-mile service check. There are over 1,700 Ford dealers available throughout Britain for service to Ford tourists. Leaving Jill to look after the servicing details, Marianne casts an admiring eye over a Zodiac, top model in the Ford range. The girls part reluctantly with the car that has taken them so far on their holiday. But Jill's brother and his friend with a Ford prefect are now to escort them for a while. The prefect, four-door stable companion to the Anglia, proves its roominess and luggage capacity. Before going south to Torquay, it was decided to head for Seaside, nearest to the sea from Taunton and just inside the Devon border. Tackling the steep hills into Seaton, the prefect, with four up and boot filled, took them in its stride. Torquay, with its multi-language sign, came into view. Sometimes called the English Riviera and renowned for its magnificent gardens, Torquay offers the best in English seaside holidays. Water skiing caught the eye of the prefect party, and Jill was soon out in the tiny motorboat, a boat powered incidentally by a Ford Anglia engine. One of the boys boasted of his experience in water skiing and could scarcely wait to have a go. Marianne changes places in the boat with Jill and was soon snapping some of her liveliest pictures. The end of the holiday, and time flashes by with the weather good and spirits high. A late afternoon picnic, then a last look at the sea. It didn't seem possible that it was only 2 weeks since Marianne had stepped from her aircraft. But now a last snapshot taken with just a tinge of sadness. For Marianne there was one word for it all. Wonderful. A wealth of happy memories and 1,000 miles of motoring in a Ford.